I think that's a good chunk.
Because the next section of the adventure is a distinct chunk different to what we have now. I know it's not quite 10 yet, but it makes more sense to end.
No, I suppose this is where we get like a quest and then we go on that quest type of thing.
It's up to you guys.
No, yeah. Let's.
You could try to slaughter everyone in the building.
No, well,
Can we quick save for that?
Right, can I just ask?
Yeah.
Did you at any point ever cheat with the cards that you gave us?
No.
Because what would have happened if we never drew that golden card?
It's a good
We
question.
would have a different adventure, I guess.
I know, but this whole thing felt like this.
You could think to yourself, I've had that adventure prepared for ages, and this is the first time you draw the card. You could think to yourself that I would have had a different thing happen and you would have ended up there. You could think to yourself, I have a whole different adventure planned if you stay in that weird magician's house. I have a different adventure planned for when Rob comes back. You could think of any of these things and they may or may not be true.
And they will all be true.
Yes.
That's why I choose to do.
Yes.
No, the reason I'm asking is because back in the day when I was, because sometimes when I was DMing, because I mean we were younger and whatnot, but if I felt like if people are going to keep doing this now, it will be fun because they're like just walking about, but it will only be fun until they feel like now we're not achieving anything because they didn't like try things, or they just walked around and like. So every now and then I cheated with stuff like that because if they tried a thing once and then it didn't work and then they would just move on and do other things, then I would have to come up with some way to make things feel like it was their decision and how they ended up in that place. So cheating with something like that would have been
I can assure
something
you,
I would have done it.
I can assure you that it is both true and not true.
Then
With
that's
absolute confidence.
That's all. like gently guiding us to where we want to go without forcing us is kind of for me what because
There's always choices. Like
Yeah.
I didn't really depending on whether this happened by chance or whether I arranged it, which again could be both true and not true. Even so, you still have a choice. You can still say,
of course we can
I
choose to
go
walk
back
away,
out of the building, or I choose to
not walk through
not
any
go
other
through the portal. I
of
choose
course.
to jump off into the void. All different things could happen.
Sail on Aruna's boat.
Yeah, exactly.
One, you have two boats, right? No, one boat.
What do I got? I got 2 iron doors that are 10 feet wide and 10 feet high.
Classic
And I
iron
got
doors.
2 portable rams. I have 0 mastiffs though. That is.
0 mastiffs. Very disappointing number of mastiffs.
Also,
you guys leveled up.
Hey!
Yeah. So I'll do that on D&D Beyond, and I'll add your new items and stuff, and then you can print off. Once you made your new choices, you can print off your new sheet.
Nice.
But let's see, that would put us at level 4.
That's correct.
I want it to be level 5 because that's when you get higher level spells, right?
You get what spells?
Higher level spells? Isn't that right?
Maybe, but I think
On
something
5th level, I do double damage with my fireball.
something cool happens at level 4. I think you get to choose a feat or to improve your ability scores or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is, but a 4 is a good level.
I remember those circles as well with the druid. You can get a cooler stuff as well.
Can I add these on my own, by the way? Or is that? Do you need to allow me to have another skill point?
The book one I'll have to do, but your level up ones you can choose them.
It's a drop down.
It's a drop down, yeah.
So if you before we do our next run, would you mind adding the book one for me, and then I'll
Yes,
just
if you guys could please text me on the WhatsApp group so I can
have
remember.
it,
Just text me something you can do it now if you want. Add 25 gems, add 25 jewels, add +1 to whatever stat from the book. Add level. Is there any other equipment that I'm missing for you guys, etc., etc.?
Robe of useful items.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm
Yeah.
just gonna. So
just text it to me, and then I'll have it as like a checklist.
before I do the next thing, I'm just gonna ditch a bunch of this stuff, like the fan shaft that does 1d4 plus 1. I'm never gonna use that. It's too. Yeah, I don't. I barely. Battery. The iPhone 7s.
Fan shaft. iPhone 7s. Yeah, that's probably worth holding on to.
I'm gonna hold on to that. My robotic duck named Bob. I'm gonna stick to him. The music box. Battlefield map. I feel like both the Battlefield map and the Dimension prototype.
Yeah, that might be useful at some point.
All right.
You
I'll
keep
take a picture
holding.
of it so that I can. I'll take a picture of it so I can send you a list.
Yeah, please.
So I don't have to do it now.
That was good. I really enjoyed that.
It was a
Yeah,
great
it was fun
session.
session.
Tone
Yeah.
took a dramatic shift.
Fucking hell. Yeah.
Like also, think about it this way: if I was trying to, like, it wouldn't make sense for me to use the cards as a way for you to force you to do something, because you might not have
You
chosen to do anything with them at all.
Sense, yeah.
You just would have said, "Oh no, we're going to ignore the cards and we're going to go over there."
Yeah.
So it doesn't like.
No, I know.
Cards are not a great way to force something to happen. You can tell the DM is forcing something to happen if it says like the room collapses around you and you find yourself in an underground tunnel because there's nothing you could do.
Other
The
than
room
flip.
literally collapsed on you.
Yeah.
That's when you know
But-
there's nothing you could have done.
But you know when you're playing video games, right? And you've like Diablo.
Mhm.
You're playing Diablo and you run around the map and you feel like, okay, but that's probably where I should be going. So you go back and then you run around all over here just to figure out, did I miss anything?
Yeah. Well, this Diablo is quite probably one of the worst examples because it's so linear. It's like literally you can,
Well, I've always, because for me it's a great example just because you're exploring the map and you have the minimap being explored
Yeah.
right, it's being revealed as you're running around. And I hate in Diablo not having everything perfectly revealed.
Mhm.
It's like, even if I realize there's nothing there, but there's like a bit missing of that rock and there's a bit missing of that road, I'm just going to run down so that that's smooth.
Mm.
But that might just be my OCD. My point is, you know what I mean, right? I feel like we might have missed that. Clearly.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if we would have drawn this
So-
golden card last session
Yeah.
when we first started drawing. We would have missed the cloak and my sweet book. Maybe there were more sweet stuff. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We will never know.
Don't know if you ever played Bloodborne. I know
No,
that
but
Joe
it's the-
haven't
it's
played
the,
it.
It's the one like Dead Souls, but in like a different time period.
Yeah, and then, like
Dark Souls,
Dark Souls is quite different, but one like really unique thing about those kind of games, I never played Dark Souls. I don't know, like a level design of how you discover things and paths and like even shortcuts is amazing. There's no minimap, and it's like really cleverly designed. So when we play this one, it feels like a little bit that you never know where you're going, or you never know where.
What you've missed.
Yeah, what you missed, because
just
there is no
progressing.
minimap,
Yeah,
there
yeah,
is
yeah.
no, you just either keep going straight or then
Yeah.
you
And there's a level of kind of satisfaction in this as well. So I'm just being silly, but there's a little bit of that kind of FOMO
yeah.
where I feel like, was there more loot? Should we have waited drawing cards? Should we have gone back? But
I mean, we still have deck of cards, so we haven't lost them. We still can.
yeah, the cards are there. But what if we?
You're saying in one of the rooms you were in
Yeah,
previously,
because,
if you
I mean,
looked
yeah.
better,
Oh,
would you
yeah.
I
find
just have
something
a very
else?
vague
Oh,
understanding
yes,
of
yeah.
this labyrinth of arcane rooms we went
Can
through.
we come back there? I wonder.
No,
Well,
well, I mean,
probably
maybe.
figure out at some point.
Well, maybe they will send. Maybe they'll say, "Where would you like to go? What would you like to collect?"
One of the
first?"
spells you get, depending on your class, at later levels is like teleport or plane shift or something like that. And certain teleportation type spells allow you to go to places that you've heard of or
Yeah.
remember being, and depending on how well you roll, you can take yourself back to those locations. So theoretically, in a bunch of levels' time, you could go anywhere to where you've been before. But
Yeah.
it takes a while.
This makes me, because I never realized how kind of steampunky Dungeons and Dragons can be, which just makes me wonder, like, is Shadowrun ever like connected to Dungeons and Dragons? Do you know?
Well, they're different games. I don't think are they made by the same people? The two worlds like don't overlap because the mechanics are so different. But there's nothing stopping me from doing that. Like
No, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was just thinking.
But like in the canon, they don't overlap.
Alright. I was
But
just
there
thinking
are-
if Shadow, because obviously Shadowrun Uranus is basically like a sci-fi.
Yeah, I'm just looking.
It's a little
at
bit like that fucking book, Neon Overdrive or something.
Oh, you were telling me about this game, I think.
Well, I think when I was telling you about it,
Is
was
it on the
that,
phone?
that
can get.
Shadowrun is the same as Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
So Dungeons and Dragons like a paper and
Yeah.
pen role-playing game, and I used to play that as well when I was younger, but it was hard to get into because especially as a kid, fantasy I can understand, dwarves, axes, spells,
Yeah.
but the whole idea of shooting with guns and sniper rifles, but
I
also
remember you
having
showing
weird.
me this bit.
Yeah.
It's
So,
also like
Shadowrun Returns is like
Yeah.
a Kickstarter game, like one of those isometric
Yeah.
top-down view kind of things where you like point and click RPG kind of like in a similar vein as Fallout 1 and 2. If you ever play those, or no?
I only started at 3.
But it's basically that, but in isometric top-down
Yeah.
view.
Yeah.
And Shadowrun Returns was a Kickstarter game,
Yeah.
funded game that came out on Steam, and I bought it like 10 quid, just because I liked the idea of it and I wanted to support them making, because it's very story driven. It's literally, I mean, you do so much reading, and it's really well written and it's really fun. Like mechanically, it's not like super rewarding, but I really enjoyed playing it. I think it might exist on phone as well. But anyway,
Interesting.
yeah, it just made me wonder, because there are parts of the complex that we were just in, the whole metal thing, the whole corporation thing, that feels more traditionally Shadowrun than
Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons, which is why I was thinking if canon-wise there is a connection that I never knew about.
Not in the official canon, but the way D&D games go, especially when I'm like homebrewing most of this, is that I can make any world happen anywhere.
Yeah,
And I think that's what makes the fantasy setting of D&D easier to
it's
work
more
with.
flexible.
Yeah, than a sci-fi setting, because in a fantasy setting, anything is very plausible if you have the right explanation. But in sci-fi world, you can't just suddenly go off into an enchanted forest and have an adventure with an elf. Like, it just won't work.
Yeah.
Whereas in a fantasy setting, I can just take you to a big metal building and it feels appropriate.
Yeah.
So I think,
it's in a different dimension.
yeah, exactly. So it's like fantasy is fantasy. But yeah, I'm enjoying the different tone. There's a bunch of things that D&D has, a bunch of people, like D&D groups, one in particular that D&D have partnered with to put out semi-canon like adventure modules that is kind of similar to like corporate stuff, but not in the way I'm doing it. More of like a traditional fantasy business. I'm going like full
Bonkers in
corporate,
different
whereas their version is kind of like you're in a more of a wooden tavern type feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, are you guys Rick and Morty fans as well?
I was going to
Yes.
say, I felt like this entire adventure was a bit of a weird blend of Rick and Morty
Yes.
and Futurama.
Yeah, there's a lot of elements there, but there's also there's an official like Rick and Morty like Dungeons and Dragons adventure.
Oh, really?
So I could like integrate that into our adventure during one of these little quests if you guys are interested.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. That would be fun.
Fucking
But the
but
thing about it is, I might have to wait a little while before I introduce it, specifically for Aranos, because the whole thing is basically making references to traditional D&D situations.
Yeah.
So you need to build up like a little bit more of this is what happens in D&D, or this is what the boss looks like, before you'll get the jokes.
Yeah.
So I'll do it maybe a little later on.
Yeah.
And also
good.
long enough so that you've forgotten that I've said that.
Oh, no, never gonna forget this.
Yeah,
I'm
like
excited.
if you watched Spaceballs, is that the Star Wars parody?
Yes,
But
yes,
you
yes.
hadn't seen Star Wars, you would think this is a very boring
Weird,
movie.
yeah.
apart from we're fine combing the desert.
I love that bit. Drop the cone.
I really love Airplane. Like I rewatched that a couple of years ago.
Oh,
and
yes.
It held up really well.
Don't call me Shirley.
Yeah.
It's the best film.